Joined by Davis Sanchez and Overdrive's Bryan Hayes. And guys, we are officially a week away from the Kansas City Chiefs kicking off the 2024 season against the Baltimore Ravens. The back-to-back Super Bowl MVP, Patrick Mahomes, entered the league in 2017 and has already thrown his name into the greatest of all-time conversation after winning 3 Super Bowls in the past 5 years. Tom Brady, of course, has the most championships in NFL history with 7 Super Bowl victories. But Mahomes is chasing a 3rd straight title, never been done before in the Super Bowl era. So Chez, with the unprecedented three-peat, make Mahomes the, as we like to say, the GOAT.
The GOAT. No, it can't. The tool we use to measure greatness is championships. So yes, if it was asked, if we were asking, is Patrick Mahomes the most talented or maybe even the best quarterback of all time and not the greatest? Maybe it's a different answer. But for me, even if he gets 3 here, he's still 4 behind Patrick Mahomes' 7, or behind Tom Brady's 7, which no other franchise has 7. Tom himself has 7. Yeah. No franchise has 7. For that reason, I gotta go with Tom Brady.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, Brady's about longevity, right? And I think you bring up a good point. It's kind of like an MOP versus an MVP, right? We're talking outstanding play. You can give that to Mahomes. Yeah. Maybe you give it to Brady. Maybe you give it to Manning. Maybe it's Montana. You can list 5, 6 different quarterbacks who are uber talented. Some would say Aaron Rodgers, the most talented quarterback of all time. But it's about greatness we're talking about here, and no one can match Brady. So it's a little bit unfair to Mahomes because he can't yet either because he hasn't been around long enough. Yeah. Brady had multiple Super Bowls after the age of 40 with multiple teams. Multiple Super Bowls with multiple teams after the age of 40. It's absurd, Brady's resume and what he's done throughout his career. So if you're Mahomes, and that's what you're chasing now, like, to his credit, this quickly into his career, it's a legitimate conversation. It is about time, and it's about knocking things down that Brady never knocked down. Brady never had a three-peat. This would be a big start for Mahomes.
You know why Brady never had a three-peat? Because there was a game against the Philadelphia Eagles where he threw for 505 yards and 3 touchdowns and no interceptions, and they lost because his defense gave up 40. They gave up 41 points. And that is actually why I would disagree with Davis's point off the top. We shouldn't measure greatness by championships. If we're in the PGA, sure. The tennis circuit, championship, sure. But in the NFL, where you're not playing on 2/3 sides of the ball, Tom Brady's performance in the Super Bowl that would have been the one in between, that would have made 3 in a row, was one of the all-time great quarterback performances. So I'm not willing to hang that loss on him and say, sorry, if Patrick Mahomes gets a three-peat, he's the greatest of all time.
Also, I'll add this for my Tom Brady argument. We also measure in the biggest moments. How are you in the clutchest moments? And I'm not to take away the fact of Patrick Mahomes being clutch, because he is.
That's pretty clutch in the last Super Bowl.
Absolutely. He's very clutch. You have to be in this conversation. Yeah. But Tom Brady has the most comeback wins in playoff history. Again, the biggest moments, he's been the clutchest. And again, you make a great point there, because look, it's not all the quarterbacks, so that goes into greatness, and it makes a good point.
Well, I mean, listen, Lawrence Taylor might put his hand up. Like, there's a lot of different players who would say, why aren't I included in this, right? But let's face it, it generally is the quarterback that's winning the MVP every single year. It is the quarterback that's in this conversation for GOAT status. But I think the clutch gene that Mahomes has, I think we need to focus on that more. Like, Brady wasn't known as clutch those first couple of Super Bowls, right? That was Belichick and a great defense. And he stepped in and you're like, who is this guy? Okay, listen, he can win. He had multiple chapters that he wrote throughout his career. And as time went on, clutch showed up, right? That 28-3 comeback over Atlanta. Maybe Mahomes needs to be down 29-3 or something. Again, you got to find different things that Brady didn't do. But the fact that Mahomes is this early in his career, has this much hardware, but has also checked that box, indisputably clutch, that is huge, man. For me, it's simply time. That doesn't mean 20 years. That doesn't mean he's got to play until he's 45. But I think it's got to be another 8 to 10, multiple Super Bowls, multiple Super Bowl MVPs. Brady had 5 in his career, but this guy is on pace. He is tracking Tom Brady. And I think if he does a three-peat this year, it gets him that much closer, undoubtedly.
I would say the 2 things you look at in this conversation would be, one would be consistency, right? And you look at Tom Brady, he had a top 5 offense in the NFL 13 times in his career. Patrick Mahomes has had that 4. Again, impossible to measure. Last year, they were 15th. But you can make the argument that that was one of Patrick Mahomes' best seasons because he wasn't able to play the way that he played in past seasons because he didn't have the weapons around him. The other, that's one of them. And certainly the clutch gene. I think you've really hit on something there because that's something that it's hard to define. But when you see it, you know it.
Yeah.
And that is what Mahomes, I think, has brought to a level closer to Brady than anybody else who's broken in the NFL the last 10 years.
I think we need this season to kick off, fellas, because the fact that we're having to kick somebody off out of these two guys means we need football to start ASAP.
Absolutely.
Well, the last team to make it to 3 straight Super Bowls, the New England Patriots from 2016 to 2018, of course, led by the quarterback that Patrick Mahomes is chasing, Tom Brady.